episode 149 for Decoding Fox News, and I'm your host, Juliet Jeske. Each week I watch and analyze a whole heck of a lot of Fox News and then break it down. I watch all the Fox News you'd never want to. This past week it was 15 hours, the normal schedule. I never get that. Never get the actual normal schedule. And here's the headline. Let's get into it. All hail to the Nazi, Elon Musk.
After Elon Musk dropped the DOGE hammer on...
It took President Trump and Elon Musk, who is serving as a great friend and ally to the president.
Today, Elon Musk, he announced that he and President Trump are moving to dismantle USAID.
And Elon Musk doesn't have the authority. Well, sure he has the authority. The president gave it to him.
They're freaking out more over Elon Musk or the DOGE cuts.
Thanks to Elon Musk and a small team of programmers, well, the gig is up. The truth has been revealed. Elon Musk recently said when there is an important task, he will keep working until that job is done or die trying. Elon Musk uncovers massive government waste, fraud, abuse. They hate Musk because he's exposing all of this misappropriation of your hard-earned tax dollars. And you want to go to war and you want to assassinate the character of Elon Musk, who's doing this for free?
So I hadn't really realized it until I played that entire clip in the moment of making this podcast, that's kind of a clutch your pearls moments, clutch them tightly, clutch them against your collarbone and just grip those pearls as you disparage. How dare you disparage the reputation of someone as great and mighty as Elon Musk? Oh. Now, the joke with that is that Sean Hannity does a version of that bit. I'm sure it has nothing to do with my podcast or me, but he does a bit on his show where he says, oh, the vapors, like that, which is supposed to be clutch your pearls, sort of his version of clutch your pearls, where we're going to get into why I think it's a bit ridiculous to say we're disparaging the reputation of Elon Musk. I just called him a Nazi in my headline. Oh, hi, Odin. Ladies and gentlemen, Odin, one of my cats, just got on the desk. And now you can hear it. There you go. Knocking stuff over. Get off the desk, honey. There you go, because they screw up the microphone. Here we go. So right after Odin got on the desk and made those thumping noises, Thor got on the desk, and I had to take him down and say, come on, guys, stop. Okay, I have two cats, Odin and Thor. They're the mascots of the podcast. I live in a 450-square-foot apartment, so anything could happen. We just hold on for dear life. My apartment is the size of a one-car garage if you're not already orientated with how big 450 square feet is. So picture everything you own, a bathroom, a kitchen, and everything in 450 square feet. There you go. Welcome to Brooklyn. Here we go. Last week, the folks at Fox twisted themselves into knots to defend the actions of a maniacal, corrupt billionaire hellbent on destroying entire government agencies without congressional oversight. They would never admit that their glorious leader, Donald J. Trump, was just a puppet for Elon Musk, a South African immigrant with extremist political leanings. During one of the celebrations involved with Donald J. Trump's inauguration, Musk performed a hand gesture that looked suspiciously like a Nazi salute. When Musk was criticized for it, instead of apologizing or clarifying what he meant, he posted several inappropriate jokes about Nazis on his social media platform X. Musk also enthusiastically backed an extremist, staunchly anti-immigrant political party in Germany, the Alternative for Germany Party, also known as AfD. At a recent rally for AfD, Musk said, in an apparent reference to the Nazi era, "Frankly, too much of a focus on past guilt, and we need to move beyond that." Musk has also publicly supported an extremist party in the UK. He's also retweeted dozens of extremists on X, also known as Twitter, as well as promoted several racist conspiracy theories. Openly pro-Nazi profiles have flourished on the platform since Musk acquired it. Of course, no one on Fox News brought up Musk's extremist political leanings. His actions to slash and burn entire government agencies were framed as saving money for American taxpayers. Anyone watching Fox News exclusively last week might have missed out on stories about the Sudanese civil war, the recent jobs report numbers, or the increase in black maternal mortality in the United States. Shows I covered on Fox last week: Fox and Friends, The Five, and Hannity. On Fox News, all hail Elon Musk. So can you see why I called him a Nazi in the headline? Maybe he's not a Nazi. I don't know. I can't read inside his head. I don't know what's going on. He used to hang out with Ye West all the time. Ye West made a crazy commercial for the Super Bowl where he was selling a t-shirt with a swastika on it. That's all he was selling. I can't make that up. I don't know why that wasn't a bigger story. But on certain local markets for the Super Bowl, Ye West, also known as Kanye West, bought airtime, did this bizarro commercial into his phone, had that kind of money to burn, and then the only thing that you could buy on his website was a t-shirt with a swastika on it. Now, he used to be best buddies with Elon Musk. We all remember those days, don't we? I remember them. They used to hang out. They were best buds. Okay. But I'm not implying that Musk is a Nazi based on that alone. In fact, somebody tried to get into it on Facebook and say, well, you know, that hand gesture was misinterpreted. And I'm like, okay, perhaps. But let's put it as a part of a whole. You had the hand gesture, which he did twice, slapping his chest and then going straight up into what looked like a Nazi salute. Did it twice. Bizarre. Most people don't casually do that, and there is an expression that you can do from my heart to you, which you'd go straight out, not up, so that was weird. You go straight out with your hand, that is. Then he supports this extremist party in Germany. He supports an extremist party in the UK, and then when he's in Germany, he makes that statement about, let's let go of the guilt of the past. What did you do? Murder millions of people? Who cares? We got to let go of it. We got to be and he also said stuff about Germans need to be proud of being German and all this nonsense. And to go on a slight tangent, because I have to, I'm overwhelmed. So you can't stop me at this point. But there's been a lot of talk of sort of the magical white male situation right now with this whole, after the plane crash, this idea that it had to have been DEI, even though there's no evidence whatsoever that diversity, equity, and inclusion programs led to a crash of a helicopter into a plane. None whatsoever, but they just tripled down on it. And this idea that they just love to blame DEI programs on everything, as if white men are somehow magical and never do anything that would cause an accident or make a mistake. I offer to you, there's some interesting educational videos about the Hindenburg disaster, which was a giant Zeppelin or airship. I'm not sure exactly the name of what type of airship that was, that exploded horrifically right as it was about to land. And there's images from it, and there's just very dramatic. Just people actually survived it, which is also an amazing part of that story. But the hubris of the men that put the Hindenburg together. So the Hindenburg was filled with hydrogen, a highly flammable gas. And they had a smoking section in the passenger compartment. No kidding. They had a smoking section in the Hindenburg. You can look this up and you will be like, you've got to be kidding me. And I'll be like, no. It's sort of like if on the Titanic, they're like, hey, let's go straight through the icebergs. Just go, which they kind of did. But purposefully, instead of trying to avoid them, we're just going to purposefully go straight through them. We're fine. We're good. We don't need it. We're good. Anyway, I'm rambling. So on Fox News, across the board, overpaid talking heads expressed their love and devotion to Elon Musk, the billionaire, who donated $288 million to help get Donald J. Trump elected. Trump rewarded his benefactor with a position to helm the Department of Government Efficiency, which, of course, Elon Musk named DOGE, which is also a cryptocurrency. It's totally stupid. Who cares? It's a task force set up by the executive branch. It's not an actual government agency. So very quickly, what is DOGE? DOGE was created via an executive order the day that Donald J. Trump was inaugurated, January 20th, 2025. It's a task force, not an official government agency. Elon Musk is a special government employee This status means he is not required to file a public financial disclosure. He did not need to have confirmation by the House or Senate, and there is no mechanism to prevent Musk from interfering with an agency that might benefit one of his 6 companies. Musk is essentially policing himself. Musk has billions of dollars of federal contracts with his companies SpaceX and Tesla. DOGE seems to mirror many of the proposals in Project 2025. DOGE faces several lawsuits meant to limit its power. And then we go in, I already played these clips. The Murdoch-owned propaganda machine just went full in for this guy is amazing. So what has DOGE done so far? It's attempted to completely destroy USAID. Musk called the agency a criminal organization. Musk requested to cut off all payments to USAID 4 days into the Trump administration. President Trump issued an executive order suspending all U.S. foreign assistance. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, issued a stop work order for the State Department and the U.S. Agency for International Development. Dozens of USAID's top leaders were placed on immediate leave. Hundreds of employees have been let go. The USAID website was taken down. The sign on the building USAID operated in has been covered up. The DOGE has offered a buyout to federal employees, ended all remote work for federal employees, claimed to have found fraud in various agencies, provided no evidence of this fraud. Musk has claimed payments from Health and Human Services to various groups around the country are illegal. DOGE employees gained access to the Department of Treasury payment systems. A federal judge blocked DOGE from accessing them. So this is the first clip we're going to play is actually from PBS because we just kind of went through this sort of blanket craziness about Elon Musk and the worship of Elon Musk. And this is Laura Barone Lopez and Amnya Navas.
Elon Musk has said pretty publicly that his goal is to cut the deficit by stopping all of these improper payments. But he's made a lot of sweeping accusations without any evidence, calling USAID payments there just totally corrupt. He claims that the Bureau of Fiscal Service, that's that Treasury payment system we're talking about, that they've never stopped improper payments. Well, experts that we talk to say that that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what those civil servants do. They're only responsible for cutting checks. They are not responsible for vetting the payments at all. That happens at the agency level. And so there is a concern amongst government workers that Elon Musk is essentially claiming and creating a head fake saying that there are all these improper payments going out of the federal government and claiming that essentially as a permission structure to then eventually stop payments.
So in the big picture here, we've seen Musk gain access, get control of these systems. Help us understand the influence. What kind of a takeover is this we're seeing?
Well, some of the experts that we talk to say that there's a name for this, and that name is state capture. What is state capture? It's when a wealthy individual like Elon Musk is able to capture the mechanisms of government, gain control of them, and then potentially manipulate them for their personal gain. And I spoke to Tyler McBrien, the managing editor at Lawfare, who said that state capture practically works like this.
It's rewriting the rules of the game in terms of law and policy. It's capturing administrative decisions through appointments, budgeting, things like that. And then it's attacking these accountability structures. So the inspectors general, any sort of congressional oversight that should happen, the media as well. You see this now with certain government agencies only reporting things on X and no longer issuing press releases.
He mentioned inspectors general. A lot of inspectors general are gone now because the Trump administration put them on leave. One of the only ways he said to stop state capture is public awareness. And we saw today that there were a lot of protests and backlash there across D.C. outside of the Capitol. Hundreds protested the dismantling of USAID. And you hear them talking about chanting against Elon Musk there, Amna. So that is potentially one of the only ways that state capture could be stopped.
Now, I can't really show you this because it's a visual and this is an audio platform, but last week, Sean Hannity especially kept showing footage, the same exact media clips, to the point that I couldn't tell if I was rewatching the same episode. That happens often with him, where the exact same media clips in the exact same order plays again and again, and I'm like, wait a second, is this Tuesday's show? Is this Wednesday's show? Did I accidentally watch the same thing? Am I watching the same episode? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. It takes me a minute because it's so repetitive. But he kept showing clips of like Maxine Waters, who's a tiny person. She's a small, frail, elderly woman. And he was like, how dare she protest? And he was like mocking them. And these are our elected officials using their freedom of speech to protest, which is a given right in our Constitution. And he was actually trying to say that she was threatening, this tiny person was threatening people who were guarding the Department of Education, and it was just ridiculous. And I thought, wait a second, didn't this not work just a couple weeks ago? Weren't they perfectly okay with, I don't know, President Donald J. Trump pardoning the leaders of hate groups who planned to kill people at our Capitol? They had weapons. Again, they had weapons at a second location with ammo, and they were planning to get those weapons and bring them to the Capitol. That's why they got these super long prison sentences. And Donald J. Trump's like, I don't care. You can beat the crap out of a cop. I don't care because you were doing it for me. And so therefore you're a patriot. But Maxine Waters, who probably weighs $1.25, like, if she weighs 125, I'd be shocked. She's very small. You're going to act, and she's an elderly woman. I happen to love her. I think she's great. But if you, it's sort of like Jasmine Crockett, also petite, small person, fiery personality, but small, petite person. Another one, Nancy Pelosi, little, she's small, and they act like she's just vicious. I'm just like, please, I can't. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm losing my train of thought here. But no, okay, so let's go to how Jesse Waters, we just heard the brilliant Laura Barone Lopez at PBS describe what's going on here with DOGE. Now, this is slightly different. It's Jesse Waters describing USAID. I sometimes call it USAID because it's what it looks like when it's written. It's USAID. My apologies for mispronouncing it.
I've been looking into USAID. It's a CIA cutout. It's basically like a dark money group that's been caught staging coups across Latin America. They've been kicked out of dozens of countries. They've been funding paramilitary operations, and they got caught. And this is basically a $40 billion slush fund for social justice warriors in permanent Washington to bribe people, staff people at NGOs, and just create hell. And they were probably going to launch the resistance against Trump's second term through this little government super PAC.
That's a relatively brief statement, but he packs a lot of crazy into it, doesn't he? Just a lot. Paramilitary and slush fund for social justice warriors in permanent Washington. Bribe people. We're bribing people now. We're staff, NGOs. And then he says, and this is going to launch the resistance against Trump second term through this little government super PAC. Is it little or is it huge? I thought you said it was huge. I thought it was big. I thought it was paramilitary, but now it's little. It's international humanitarian aid paid for by the U.S. taxpayer, but somehow it's going to turn around, get weaponized towards Trump, what, from Mozambique, from India, from Bangladesh? Are we going to send it from, I don't know, Indonesia? I'm trying to think of various countries. Zambia. How about Zambia? We're going to take it from Zambia, and we're going to weaponize it against Trump. What are we doing here? Okay, you thought that was crazy. This is the next day. Now, I tried to find another clip, but these two were so good that I have to use two Jessies in a row. So it's another Jesse Waters. Next day, the 5, he takes this premise of USAID, I keep saying USAID, and puts it right over the top, but adds a bunch of bigotry against LGBTQ people. Here we go.
You know, sex change surgeries in Guatemala for $2 million, not the hill I would die on if I were a Democrat. Dana, there's a theme here, and it looks like we're just trying to turn the world gay. $2 million for sex changes in Guatemala, gay rights in Jamaica, gay rights, trans rights in Uganda, gay rights, trans rights in the Western Balkans, in Vietnam, and South Africa. But the more you think about it, it's actually trying to exploit the divisions in other countries, to distract those other countries, to tear down traditional societies, to hurt the church, to hurt authority there. Because the main theme is you're basically just funding radical gay and trans rights movements in traditional societies. And what does that do to a traditional society? It makes them all hate each other and fight each other and distract them so the United States can come in and exploit those divisions. It's like when we found out that the Russians were using their bots to exploit the Black Lives Matter movement and the radical trans movement. Because what did we do? We just pointed our fingers at each other and we all hated each other. And then the Russians could use that.
So Jesse Waters is almost there with the Russian stuff. But as we all know, and this came out several months ago, a bunch of far-right influencers were getting paid millions of dollars by Russia to promote their propaganda. In some cases, they knew they were getting paid by Russia. In other cases, they didn't. They didn't know. But Russia liked their hateful ideology. It was very anti-Joe Biden, anti-Kamala Harris, anti-Democratic Party, conspiracy theory, pro-Trump. And Russia was more than happy to pay those people to produce it. And again, some people knew they were getting paid by Russia and some people didn't. So there's a whole slew of them. That's a whole other story. But what Jesse Waters is trying to do there is he may not realize that this is what he was doing because he kind of seemed to start one place and go all over the place. But he's basically saying LGBTQ folks are the destruction of traditional societies. And that's pretty evil, what he's saying there, because LGBTQ folks have existed since the beginning of time. They exist all over the world, and they are not the destruction of traditional societies. In fact, in these societies that he's holding up is so wonderful, LGBTQ folks who, again, are born LGBTQ, cannot help that they are LGBTQ, that is their authentic selves, are in danger if they are openly, outwardly LGBTQ. And that is tragic. There's nothing we should be celebrating. And I don't know enough about these programs. There's so many of them. But I would think that many of them were there to protect this marginalized class of people or to help them rather than to encourage people to kill them or harm them. So yeah, Jesse Waters, horrible comment. Bigoted, ridiculous, hateful. Let's get into PBS. We're playing a lot of PBS this week, but it's needed. They had a guest on who was a former USAID administrator from the George W. Bush administration. And this man is a proud conservative Republican. And I think it's very important to hear what he has to say about this agency. Here's the clip. And this, again, is from Wednesday, I should say.
Now to Andrew Natsios. He was the administrator for USAID during the George W. Bush administration. He's now at Texas A&M University. Andrew Natsios, welcome back to the NewsHour. I just want to start with...
It's not a takeover, it's a destruction of the agency. And I just want to say I've always had respect for Marco Rubio, and I don't now because of the nonsense he just said. AID was more aligned with President Bush's foreign policy than the State Department was, and sometimes even than the Defense Department was. Right. Whenever a president takes office, they appoint people who agree with their point of view. When there's a Republican president, AID moves to the right. When there's a Democratic president, AID moves to the left, as it should. Our anti-polio eradication program is not functioning right now because the missions are shut down. They're going to close all 80 missions? That's the stupidest idea I have ever heard. AID is the most pro-business and pro-market of all aid agencies in the world. I can tell you that categorically. I am a conservative Republican. I'm not a liberal. And I've served in repeated Republican administrations. And the notion that the agency is a Marxist, they made the accusation it was a Marxist organization. That's utterly ridiculous. I know we have private sector officers in it. We have a program that we started when I was administrator called the Global Development Alliance that brings in American businesses who contribute $6 billion a year to AID's programs. They don't give us the money. We don't give them. We jointly invest in the same projects, and we manage the projects for the businesses. The business community in the United States is very pro-AID. They never bothered to ask the business community what they thought.
I thought he was the absolute perfect guest to have on because the man knows this program inside and out, and he's arguing it from the right-wing perspective that everything that Elon Musk and Donald J. Trump and folks on Fox have been promoting about USAID is incorrect. I would also buttress what he's saying a bit there, because I know for a fact that for years people have criticized U.S. humanitarian aid as being too capitalistic, too pro-free market, too pro-democracy. I've heard all of those criticisms before. And there are these private partnerships with companies, and that's also been criticized. But that's what he's saying basically is like, this is not a left-wing organization. I would also argue that it's part of humanitarian aid. What's good about it is it's a diplomatic tool, because in parts of the world, people hate Americans. And when they are having a rough time, when there's a famine or there's a natural disaster, and USAID comes in with food and water and shelter and things that people need, and it's got the American flag plastered all over it, that's a good thing. That's a good thing for us. There's all kinds of programs. So let me just break down what is USAID, and then I've got a couple bonus videos that are only on the podcast. They're not in the newsletter this week because they didn't really fit for the newsletter, but I thought they were funny, so I'm including them. So what is USAID? The United States Agency for International Development is an independent agency of the United States government that is primarily responsible for administrating civilian foreign aid and development assistance. It contributes billions of dollars of humanitarian aid to over 177 countries. According to Pew Research, the United States was on track to spend $58.4 billion on international assistance programs in the 2025 fiscal year. In 2023, USAID accounted to 1.2% of the total federal budget. Let me repeat that. It's only 1.2% of the total federal budget. That's it. They keep acting like it's this huge amount of money, and Sean Hannity would even use phrases like, we're spending our children's money and our grandchildren's money on these ridiculous programs. It's 1.2%. So what is USAID used for? According to Pew Research, fiscal year 2023, disaster relief and other humanitarian aid was $15.6 billion, or 21.7% of total aid disbursements. Efforts to solve the ongoing battle with HIV/AIDS was $10.6 billion, or 14.7%. Combating pandemic influenza and other emerging public health threats was $1.5 billion, or 2%. Promoting democracy, good governance, and the rule of law, $2.3 billion, or 3.2%. And then multi-sector programs that crossed several subject areas, $2.9 billion, or 4%. The largest recipient of USAID was Ukraine, that should be obvious, followed by Israel, also obvious, two areas of the world where there's active conflicts going on. So that, and I would argue too, that even if you took out all emotion and you took out all empathy for struggling people all over the world, if you looked at it purely from kind of a creepy Ayn Rand, believe it or not, I'm not a fan of Ayn Rand. No, not at all. But if you look at it from a purely selfish point of view, it helps the United States to help other countries to spread goodwill and have our flag plastered on all of it. That's basically part of the reasoning behind why we do this so much humanitarian aid. I think it's good to send humanitarian aid regardless. A stable world is a good world for everyone, including the United States. Even if we don't think that conflict in a foreign country could affect us, you don't know. It's better if the world is getting along and people are fed and all that. Now, does it happen? No, of course we have starving people, we have conflicts, all kinds of horrible things. But this is one tool that helps solve some of these problems. It's not perfect either. I'm not going to say that there's no problems with it, but to completely get rid of it based on a crazy person who does Sikh Heils at inauguration celebrations, No, that I'm not convinced of. So very briefly, I'll do a quick commercial. If you're wondering who supports Decoding Fox News, do I have a check? Is there some foundation that gives me money? Do I have a salary that comes from a giant billionaire who's like, here, Decoding Fox News lady, here's your money? No. I have hundreds of paid subscribers to Decoding Fox News at my Substack channel and paid Patreon supporters at my Patreon account. Both are called Decoding Fox News. Subscriptions start at $5 a month at Substack, goes all the way up to $168 for a founding member. There's a few people who are founding members, and for that you get exclusive content. Lately it's been, I do these crazy edits. I've got 2 more coming of the the Senate confirmation hearings for various cabinet picks. I just did 2 for RFK Jr. Tulsi Gabbard is coming up, and then we also have Kash Patel. So those are fun because they take 3 hours and I turn it into 45 minutes, or take 5 hours, turn it into like a half hour, whatever. So you can sort of get the highlights without having to watch the whole thing. And they come with very detailed transcripts with notes, So if they say something that you may not understand, I've got it right there for you. So again, that's for paid subscribers. And if you can't afford to become a paid subscriber or paid supporter, please share the podcast, share the newsletter. This week it's 1 document. I'm trying something new. We'll see. I'll probably get to confuse a lot of folks. But to try to make this easier every week, there's a lot of reasons why I haven't done it this way. I'm going to try it. We could go back to the old way of 2 documents, but they're going to be on the same document. If you do not like the podcast and you don't want to hear it, you don't have to play it. You can just read the text underneath it. If you want to hear the podcast, you don't want to read it, you can still download the podcast. You can still hear the podcast on all the platforms that you can find my podcast on: Spotify, Apple. There's a bunch. I get half of my audience comes from Apple, but there's a bunch. So that's about it. So back to the podcast, the actual guts here. So a Fox business host didn't know what NAFTA doesn't exist anymore. This one was fun. This was on Monday on Fox and Friends. They had a Fox business host, Lydia Hugh, just drop this, and it was like a record scratch moment for me because they said, "What is she talking about?" And I'll explain after I play the clip. Here you go.
I mean, when you look at all of the restrictions we have, take oil and energy production, for example. Our North America Free Trade Agreement has been in existence for decades.
So again, that clip was from Monday, the year being 2025. That's February 3rd, 2025. So let me break this down. Yeah, there's a reason why I just went, what? And I played it again and went, what? And then I played it again and went, what? Okay, what? Okay, sorry, I keep doing that. The North American Free Trade Agreement, also known as NAFTA, went into effect on January 1st, 1994. It created free trade zone in North America between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. The agreement was modeled after a similar trade agreement in the European Union. One of NAFTA's main provisions called for a gradual reduction of tariffs, custom duties, and other trade barriers between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. NAFTA also contained provisions aimed at securing intellectual property rights. During his first term in office, President Donald J. Trump replaced NAFTA with the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, also known as USMCA, which, by the way, sounds like YMCA. It's driving me a little crazy. But anyway, the USMCA went into effect on July 1st, 2020. So that was 4.5 years ago. Lydia Hugh, sorry you didn't get the memo. NAFTA has not existed since July 1st, 2020. Some of the major differences between NAFTA and USMCA: open trade between U.S. and Canadian dairy markets, enhancements to labor laws to prevent lower wage jobs going to Mexico, increasing the percentage of motor vehicle parts produced in the region, stronger protections for intellectual property, more environmental provisions, and provisions for digital trade. So the agreement is in place for 16 years with the next review by the 3 nations in July 2026. President Joe Biden did not make any major changes to USMCA because it would be very difficult for him to do so considering what I just read to you there. So President Donald J. Trump has been calling the trade deal he negotiated unfair. I don't know why this is not getting more press, but this is exactly what he's doing. He negotiated this. He was extremely proud of it. He did huge press conferences for it. They did all these big celebrations for USMCA, which a lot of people said, well, it's kind of NAFTA reworked. It's not radically different, but there are just some differences. Some labor unions were happier with USMCA because of the protections that it enacted about, jobs moving to Mexico. And now Donald J. Trump is calling it very unfair, and, there you go. So I have two, very briefly, because I thought this is going to be different this week, because I have two short clips that don't have anything to do with the theme, but I thought they were funny. And this might be a new thing that I'm doing with the podcast, is bonus videos. So this is a bonus audio clip. This is from Fox last week. Which one is it? Which is my first one? Oh, this one's just stupid, but it's funny. It speaks for itself. This is from last week, Sean Hannity talking about Hillary Clinton. Here we go.
But Hillary is an irrelevant political figure at this point. Hillary Clinton trying to pick a fight with Transportation Secretary. Well, she's back. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton called DOGE staff inexperienced kids that might not be able to rent cars. And I know Hillary's still bitter. She lost in 2016. Hillary should sit this one out.
These swamp creatures raise their heads like Hillary Clinton has. And
I did enjoy the back and forth with Hillary.
Okay, full disclosure, the comment where he says Hillary Clinton is an irrelevant political figure was sort of in the middle of that little segment, and I stuck it at the front because I thought it needed to be at the front, but it doesn't really matter, because basically he's saying she's an irrelevant figure, and then they just keep talking about her. Why are they talking about her? I don't know. They don't need a reason. It's like AOC, Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi. They'll find a way. If you're a Democrat and you're a woman and you have any opinion about anything, they'll find a way. Jasmine Crockett is starting to work in the mix, and I think she's gonna get there. She's gonna become like the new AOC for Fox. But Maxine Waters, here's another one. Any opinionated female Democrat will become the new nemesis on Fox News. But Hillary Clinton has a special place in their hearts. They just can't let it go. It's like, guys, you got a problem. This is you can go to therapy for that. Anyway, the next one, this is totally stupid, and again, didn't fit the theme, but I needed to share this with you because it's so dumb. This is Steve Doocy realizing a joke that a lot of us have known for at least 8 years. At least.
If you could see a close-up on some of the signs, in addition to the flags of El Salvador and of Mexico as well, there were some signs that said MAGA. Stands for Mexicans Always Get Across. Also, don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Really, Doocy? You just heard of that? Really, Doocy? Really, Doocy? Let's play it again.
There were some signs that said MAGA. Stands for Mexicans Always Get Across.
That sound you heard I added, that's a Mexican jumping bean sound effect that I used, I think the first year I did it, I did an audio play that was Carrie Lake's Christmas. So Carrie Lake Christmas. That's when I didn't have nearly as many followers. And yes, I did an audio play. It was a radio play of sorts, where I did all the voices, and one of them was, Carrie Lake, you're fake news and you're a liar, and I am the governor of Arizona, also known as Carizona with a K. Hashtag Carizona. Carizona, where the wind comes sweeping down the plains, and I will be someone in the cabinet. Oh, and Odin has jumped up on the desk. Odin always jumps up on the desk at the end. He just like knows. He's like, shut up, lady, shut up. You're singing. Stop it. Hey, Odin. Hey, get off my script. Odin, get off my script. See, now you know the inner workings. It's kind of behind the scenes, even though it's all audio. Behind the scenes. This is why I don't do video. I don't know how I could do video. People say, why don't you do a video podcast? And I'm like, I have no assistant. I have no producer. Can you imagine doing the clips with the video and the cats and I want to play that Mexican sound effect again. Here we go. In my holiday celebration with Carrie Lake, that was her doorbell. That was her doorbell, because she's in Arizona and she liked a little Mexican flavor. Mexican flavor like queso. Okay, anyway, By the way, Sean Hannity was saying that, they're all about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. He was sharing one of his favorite recipes, which was Velveeta with ground beef and those tomatoes that come in the tomatoes. There's a name for them. It's like they come in a can. You mix them together, probably in a crock pot. And he was like, that's great. It's good eating. And I'm like, Velveeta? Really? I grew up on that crap. I grew up on store brand Velveeta. Government cheese level Velveeta. Like, come on. One of my favorite things as a child to eat was actual cheese. Real cheese. At Christmas and Easter, there would be kind of a deli tray. And it would have cold cuts of like ham, usually ham, maybe turkey. And then you'd have the Swiss cheese and probably American cheese. But I didn't care because that Swiss cheese I would go straight for every single time. And I didn't have to have anything with it. Just Swiss cheese, rye bread, and mustard. And that was like heaven as a child because we never had real cheese. And I still love Swiss cheese. Like, I still cannot handle myself around Swiss cheese. I have to limit because I'll eat the whole damn package. I love it so much. Even cheap Swiss cheese. I'm like, you don't understand. Because I had it like twice a year when I was a child. My parents did not have a lot of money. We just scraped by. And real dairy products were a thing of great wonder. So anyway, moving on. If you grew up low income, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Dairy products in general, just like, what are you talking? Yogurt was like super fancy. Like yogurt with fruit on the bottom. Are you kidding me? That wasn't Kroger brand? If we got Dannon as a child, I thought I was going to cry. Okay, next up. It was almost as good as getting Hostess, which never happened. If you were low income and you grew up in like the 70s, 80s, like born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, you know what I'm talking about. Like a ding dong wrapped in the foil was a thing of great beauty that you had maybe once a year. And when you had it, you were just like, this can't be possible. It's a ding dong. If you got one of the cupcakes, it was like, that's next level. A Hostess cupcake was next, like over the edge. Anyway, I'm sorry, because it just never happened. Little Debbie we got sometimes because it was cheap. Anyway, here we go. Whoo! Here we go. So, stories Fox News ignored. Every week I compare the hours I've watched on Fox News to 5 hours of the PBS NewsHour. The following list are stories taken directly from the transcripts of the PBS NewsHour that were not covered on Fox. So, openly saying that's where I got them. Here we go. Updates in the war in Ukraine. In Ukraine, the UN's nuclear chief is warning that attacks on Ukraine's power grid could lead to a nuclear accident. Rafael Grossi, who heads the International Atomic Energy Agency, warned that Russian attacks on Ukraine's power supplies could threaten nuclear safety by potentially disrupting the cooling procedures needed at atomic facilities. The rest of the news, here we go. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, Rwandan-backed M23 rebels have declared a unilateral ceasefire. In a statement, a spokesperson said that the group has no intention of claiming more territory in the region, but he added that it remains committed to protecting and defending the civilian population and our positions. The announcement comes as morgues in the eastern city of Goma are overcrowded with bodies, forcing health workers there to bury the dead in mass graves. In Sweden, there was a mass shooting that killed 11 people, including the gunman. A man opened fire at an education center for adults in the city of April, which is about 125 miles west of Stockholm. Within a couple of days of the shooting, members of the government called for stronger restrictions on firearms. Maryland officials gave a first glimpse of the redesign of Baltimore's Francis Scott Key Bridge nearly a year after it collapsed. Artistic renderings of the new bridge show it to be taller and better protected against the type of ship strike that toppled its predecessor. The project has a price tag of almost $2 billion and could be completed as soon as 2028. A second federal judge put a hold on Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship. U.S. District Judge Deborah Boardman issued a nationwide injunction saying that the order, quote, runs counter to our nation's 250-year history of citizenship by birth. Argentina is withdrawing from the World Health Organization due to, quote, profound differences with the agencies. President Javier Miller's decision follows President Trump's executive order to pull the U.S. out of the WHO. The organization coordinates responses to global health threats and provides technical assistance to poorer countries. The racial gap in maternal mortality rates widened last year here in the U.S., according to new federal health data. The CDC found that in 2023, Black women in the U.S. died at a rate of nearly 3.5 times higher than white women. It's a greater disparity than prior 2 years when Black women were 2.6 times more likely to die, either before, during, or soon after childbirth. It's not in the script, but I'm going to add this very quickly because you can look this up if you don't believe me. But when abortion access becomes more difficult to get, maternal mortality rates rise. Across the board, regardless of demographics, regardless of socioeconomic backgrounds, regardless of race, across the board, when women cannot access abortion care, maternal mortality rates rise. That could be part of the reason. That's just me throwing that in there, but it's true. Authorities at Seattle's main airport say a Japan Airlines plane struck the tail of a parked Delta aircraft. Video from inside the Delta plane shows airport personnel attending to the scene. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu gave President Trump a golden pager mounted on a wooden stand during their meeting in Washington. It is a not-so-subtle nod to Israel's operation in Lebanon last year when pagers and handheld radios were used to attack members of Hezbollah. In Panama, the country's president is pushing back on U.S. claims over transit fees for the Panama Canal. The U.S. State Department posted on social media that a deal was reached that would allow U.S. government vessels to pass through free of charge, saving the federal government millions of dollars a year. But this morning, Panama's president rejected that claim, calling it flat out false. There are growing concerns of the spread of bird flu after dairy cattle in Nevada came infected with a new variant of the disease. The latest strain is the second instance of the H5N1 virus spilling from birds to cattle. The first jobs report of President Trump's second presidency showed U.S. employers added 143,000 jobs in January. That is the lowest number since October and short of predictions that were around 170,000. The unemployment rate fell to 4%, which experts say may lead the Federal Reserve to hold off on cutting interest rates until at least June. Just want to add that they didn't mention the jobs report. You'd think they would have. Oops. And that whole thing about interest rates. Oops. I thought he was supposed to get those down. Yeah, anyway. Sources on the ground in Sudan tell the New York Times that hundreds of people have been killed in recent days as fighting escalates in the country's civil war. PBS produced a segment about the Trump administration's many attempts to sharply curtail any effort to deal with climate change, as well as increase production of fossil fuels. This may be, by one measure, the most intense winter flu season in the last 15 years. The CDC says the percentage of visits to doctors' offices due to flu-like symptoms was higher last week than the peak of any winter flu season since 2010. Flu season typically peaks around February, and the CDC estimates at least 24 million flu cases this season so far. Aga Khan, who led the world's Ismaili Muslims, has passed away. Considered by his followers to be a direct descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, the Harvard graduate grew into a business magnate and philanthropist. He mixed with the royals and used his riches to build homes, hospitals, and schools in developing countries. The Aga Khan was 88 years old. Harry Stewart Jr., a decorated World War II pilot and one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen, has died. After Pearl Harbor, Stewart enlisted as soon as he turned 18. He joined what was considered an experiment to train black pilots in Tuskegee, Alabama. He earned the Distinguished Flying Cross for downing 3 German aircraft during a single dogfight. Harry Stewart Jr. was 100 years old. Irv Gotti has died. He founded the influential record label Murder Inc. with his brother in the late 1990s and went on to produce dozens of hits. Gotti helped launch the careers of artists like Ja Rule and Ashanti and worked with other stars like DMX and Jay-Z. Irv Gotti was 54 years old. So those were all the stories, especially I thought was sad. You'd think that they would have mentioned the Tuskegee Airmen, considering his great story. I had to cut his bio down a little bit just for time, But nope, they didn't. They didn't mention him at all. I thought that was a shame. You'd think they would have, because 100 years old, Tuskegee Airmen, enlisted at 18, you know, right after Pearl Harbor. Kind of an amazing story, really. But nope, Fox didn't include that. You'd think he would have, along with all the other ones, but they don't care. Anyway, so the next section is by the numbers. Every week I compare the top 5 topics on Fox to the top 5 topics on PBS. Here we go, starting with Fox. Number 1, DOGE, 28%. Next, Trump worship, 9%. Mass deportations, 8%. Super Bowl, 8%. And Trump tariffs, 7%. Now, Fox aired the Super Bowl, so that was a major, major story for them. For PBS, the top 5 topics for the week ending February 9th, 2025. Wanted to add to that Ye West commercial where he was offering this crazy, if you went to his website, you could buy a swastika t-shirt. That's the only thing he sold, was a white shirt with a black swastika on it. That's it. That was the point of the commercial. Who at Fox allowed that? Because Fox aired the Super Bowl. That commercial did not air in every market. It was only some markets. But again, who let that happen? Who's selling airtime to Ye West? I'm sorry, but that is outrageous. The man is a proud anti-Semite. He's been tweeting about Nazis and Hitler again. And somebody's like, let's give that guy airtime. Why? Why are you giving him airtime? So he can sell a swastika t-shirt? I'm sorry. I don't want to go on too much of a rant, but that made me so mad. So, moving on to PBS. Here we go. Top 5 topics. Number 1, DOGE again, 17%. 9%, Trump tariffs. Israel-Hamas war, 8%. Artist profile, 6%. And USAID freeze, 6%. Wanted to add, again, because PBS has been really good about this, they had more relatives of hostages on PBS. They've been very good about including, interviewing, sharing the stories of the families of hostages on PBS, whereas Fox has not been. And again, Fox tries to portray itself as being pro-Israel, but then they sell ad time to Ye West. And then they promote things like the Great Replacement Theory and cultural Marxism, which are all anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. I just get so mad about this. I'm just like, they're the worst. It's one of the things that makes me the maddest at Fox. Okay, my printer's running out of ink, so I gotta zoom in. I gotta take my glasses off to read this. These are words used on Fox for the week. I just gotta switch the ink out. I've got the ink. Somebody bought me ink off the Amazon wish list. Thank you so much. I just forgot. I just haven't put it in yet. I'm putting it in. It's the colored ink, so I don't use it as much. Here we go. Trump, 530 times. This is how many times it showed up in the transcripts last week. Border, 166. Elon Musk, 130. Biden, 115. So Musk was mentioned more than Biden. And yes, they still talk about Biden. USAID, 62. Israel, 62. China, 52. DOGE, 41. Kamala, 35. Iran, 35. Crime, 14. Crime went way down. Hillary, 10. AOC, 9. And inflation, 8. Remember how they told us that they all voted for Trump because of the price of eggs, because of inflation? Inflation was so important to them. And now they don't even talk about it on Fox. They don't even talk about it. It's not even an issue. 8 times it showed up on the transcripts. 8. I'm surprised it even showed up 8, because they're just like, mass deportations, DOGE. And then USAID. And for some reason, and I don't know, maybe it's this talk of Swiss cheese, but now I cannot get the Love Boat song out of my head. You know what I'm talking about. The theme song from a TV show that was big in the 70s and 80s that I watched as a child. It's this talk of cheese. It's, nostalgia. And now I'm just going to rewrite it because I probably don't have the rights to it because I'll get sued and they'll pull my podcast. But if I make a parody of it, then I'm allowed to do it. So I'll go, the Fox boat. Soon we'll be making some more garbage. The Fox boat. Odin, my cat, is staring at me. He's like, please stop singing. I have a music degree. I sort of do. It was music theater. But it wasn't musical theater, by the way. It was two separate, because I'm that big of a genius. Anyway, if you'd like to check out more of my work, you can go to Twitter, also known as X, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram, and YouTube, Facebook. What are you doing? The cat is on the desk, ladies and gentlemen. The cat is on the desk. There's Odin. He's one of the podcast mascots. He sends his love. You can also check out my work at Substack, of course. You have a paid subscriber at Substack or paid supporter at Patreon, and I could always use you, as I always say. You can find a version of this podcast at the Resolute Square YouTube channel, and I will see you at the next podcast. Again, Odin and Thor, the cats, one of them's on my lap, send their love. Thank you so much.
Resolute Square.